In this unit, we will learn how to align our objects using the Align panel as well as guides. So let's have a quick look.
Firstly, we're going to have a look on Smart Guides. In order to enable the Smart Guides, which most likely are already being activated, you can go through View and check the option of the Smart Guides. If it's not ticked yet, just click on that to enable it. What it does is allowing you, when you're dragging around an object, to perfectly align it. And you can see here this magenta lining appearing, and trying to align my circle to some different points and positions. So aligning it with the other circle on the other side, or at the bottom of the triangle here, at the bottom of my hexagon in this case here, and so on. It also helps you to perfectly align objects one with the other. So let's say that we want to have some triangles one next to the other. So you see how it snaps in the corner and it actually places them perfectly so they're positioned in an exact position. Same here, I'm aligning it with the top of the triangles, and by dragging it I can also align it to the middle between the two triangles. And this is a really comfy tool that helps you to define the exact position of your shapes. If I'm gonna go ahead and disable the smart guides, you will find it quite hard to perfectly position it because you don't have any kind of help. So you don't know where exactly to place your circle. I would suggest to have it enabled all the time. It's a pretty handy tool. Another thing are these rulers that you see on the top and on the side of my Adobe Illustrator. In order to enable them, you just go to View and then Rulers and hide rulers in order to hide them, or if they are hidden, show rulers, or the shortcut is Command R in order to appear them and disappear them, same shortcut. And these rulers are helping you, except from just counting, to create some guides. And the guides are some lines that they are not getting printed or exported or anything like that. They are just there to help you perfectly align your objects. In order to get your guides, you click on the ruler and you drag your click, and you can see this dashed line coming out, which snaps on different positions. So I'm gonna go ahead and place it somewhere here. If you are unable to see your guide, make sure that under the View menu and then Guides, it's written Hide Guides, or else just click on the Show Guides so they will appear. In order to help them snap, as I did with mine, on specific positions, you have to have enabled the option of Snap to Point. Another thing that you can do is select them and move them around and reposition them, or even select them and press the backspace or delete button to delete it. Of course, the vertical ruler allows you to get also a vertical axis in case you want, a vertical guide that helps you then align objects correspondingly. And this is again a really handy tool which allows you to quickly position your shapes around kind of a basic structure. You can have as many guides as you like in order to be able to achieve the outcome that you're aiming for. Now what happens is sometimes you just try to select few shapes like this way around, but you will see that you select by mistake also the guides, and if you try to move it you get also the guides, which is perhaps something that you didn't want to do. In order to solve this issue, you have to lock your guides. You go again to the View menu and then you go to Guides and select Lock Guides. Now you see that I'm gonna be unable to select them, so if I'm gonna go ahead and select my shapes and move them, that is perfectly fine. My guides are still gonna stay exactly where they are, and I can still carry on editing my composition to further adjust the layout. Another thing is that you see them in front of you here, so I can't really judge if my composition is good enough or not in my way to actually design, which is quite annoying at some points, right? In order to fix that, you have to go to View again and then Guides and Hide Guides. Next to the options, you will see also the corresponding shortcuts for each of the functions. Hide guides is just gonna hide them temporarily. You can of course carry on editing, but you won't have the help of the guides anymore. And if you want to reveal them again, you go to View and then Guides and Show Guides. If you want to get rid of all of them, you can use the function of Clear Guides, which is just gonna clear your artboard from any kind of guides that you have. Again, even if you see all those guides on your screen, they won't really get printed or anything. They're just there to help you align your objects. If it happens that the color is not really helping you because it's perhaps really close to your background or something like that, like in this case, blue on the blue shade doesn't help, you can always switch their color. You go to Illustrator and then Preferences, and from there you will go to Guides and Grid, or else if you're on Windows, it should be under the File or the Edit option, the Preferences. From the top part here, you see Guides and you can select a color, either a custom or one of the colors that they're already here. So I'm gonna switch it to green, for example. And you can select also the style, so if you want them to be perfect lines or just dotted lines. And you see, now my guides are green. So feel free to swap them if they are not comfy for you on a specific file. You can also press backspace or delete button while having them selected and get rid of them, so delete them. Now I'm gonna show you another interesting function about guides. Do you remember we were showing, for example, the rectangle grid tool? Not only this one, but you can use more tools. One good application is creating the grid and then turning it to a guide. So you can actually use any shape that you created and make it a guide. In order to do so, you go to View and then Guides again, and then Make Guides. Command 5 or Control 5 is the shortcut. You see that they automatically became this green color, which means that they are guides, and I can go ahead and lock them as well so I don't move them accidentally. And I can use them, for example, to rearrange my objects. So let's say that I want to have an object on every single squares that we have. So I'm gonna go ahead and scale my shapes down and place them on different boxes around. Any kind of shape can be turned to a guide, especially if you want to create your own kind of grid in order to base your illustration at. So I'm just gonna duplicate the triangle since it's exactly the same shape. Here is the outcome, so I can nicely, quickly align my objects based on a grid like this, for example. I'm gonna go ahead and remove all those shapes as well as my grid and bring in these little circles that I created, this little eye. I'm gonna show you a few other options of how you can align your objects, this time though not using the guides. Let's split these shapes and leave them like floating in the space. A panel that is extremely useful, and I'm using it most of the time, is the Window Align panel here. It looks like that. What it allows you to do is to align either a specific object or multiple objects in different ways. So let's get rid of the circles for a second and just keep the main one. So if I want to align my circle at the center of my canvas, but vertically, so here, what I need to do is just click on that horizontal align center. Or if I want to align it to the left side of my canvas, I will click that icon there. And corresponding for the right. So we have on this first group of icons options that allow you to align your objects on different positions on the horizontal axis. We have also the vertical ones, so top, middle and bottom. And as you can imagine, if I want to align the shape at the very middle of my canvas, I just need to click on both horizontal and vertical, the center. That does not only apply when you have just one shape, so you can have multiple shapes and select all of them, align them on the side, let's say there, or at the top, or even if you go to the middle, you have the little eye. Then we have the second line of icons, which are allowing us to align the objects in different ways based on the distance between them. The first vertical distribute top is gonna distribute all my illustrations so they have the same distance between their top axes. The same distance between here and there and these two. You can see that this distance now is exactly the same with that distance there. I'm gonna go ahead and remove those guides so we don't get confused. The second icon aligns them vertically so they have all the same distance between their axis that goes through their center. This distance now is the same with that one. Again, I'm gonna remove those axes. And the last icon, as you can imagine, aligns them based on their axis that goes through the bottom part of the shapes. And you can see how this distance is exactly the same with that one. You can imagine also that the same happens if we are going with the horizontal icon, so based on the distance of their left axis, of the central, and of the right. But the question now is, what happens in case that we want to actually align them based on the distance between them and not based on the axis? So this distance, I want it to be exactly the same with that one. In order to do so, you just click here, horizontal distribute space. And now you know that this distance here is exactly the same with that one. And of course you can do the same thing, but on vertical axis. I'm gonna go ahead and put them all together again so we have one shape. And what you can do is also group this shape. So right click and group as we already showed. And you can use these functions in order to move the group of the shape rather than every single object by itself. Thus far we show like all the options are actually pushing our shape in different positions based on our artboard. But what happens if, let's say, we have this situation here and I just want to align the objects one compared to the other, not to the main artboard? What you need to do is select from here, from the option of Align To, the option of Align to Selection. This time, if I'm gonna select all three objects and align them in the center, they are just gonna move so they find the middle way in order to perfectly align. Or central this way too, but now it doesn't mean that they are central in the canvas. You can see it reacts to the position of the shapes rather than comparing them to where they are on the canvas. And all of the icons were correspondingly as they were before. In case now that we have, let's say I went to Align to Artboard, I perfectly aligned this white shape, and then I created the rest of the shapes here, and I want them to be aligned on the main one looking at the top side. If I'm gonna go ahead and select all three and press that button, the white shape is actually gonna move up, while I wanted it to still stay in the center. If there is a specific object that you want it to stay stable exactly where it is and everything else to get aligned to that, what you need to do is, after selecting all objects, click once again on your main object, and you see that it's gonna get highlighted with a thicker stroke. And then that enables you to align everything on that specific object. All these alignment options allowing you to quickly reposition your objects and keep the perfect distances and the perfect positioning rather than almost at the center whenever you want like detail and precision on your work. Another thing is, whenever you select the objects, sometimes it's not comfy to access the align panel because you're just like quickly in this position and you just want to quickly get them aligned. There is also on the properties panel here at the top, the align option, which allows you to quickly access your align panel and quickly align your shapes. It's a little kind of shortcut on your way instead of having to go and find the whole panel itself.
We have finished our first course, so well done! Now you know how to navigate through Adobe Illustrator's interface and how to use the basic and most frequently used tools. In order to put all this into practice, let me guide you through our first practical phase.